from Nunavut, and we say Asuyutit for hello. This is how you say hello in Mi'kmaq. Weh. Ganche. Ganche.
Southern Shoshone.
How you say hello in our language is Sagoli, or Sagoli Swagege for everyone.
How you say hello in Blackfoot is Ukki. We are from Cochiti Pueblo. Goetze Hopa.
Kolamalsi. Yep, that's how you say hello. Dante. Yeah, Dante.
This is how you say hello in Ojibwe. Ani. This is how we say hello in Tansi.
Saigon.
Scano. Buju.
Inu, and to say hello is Etili High.
And how do you spell it?
I have no sweet clue.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Francis. I'm the Saskatchewan reporter for CBC Indigenous based here in Regina on Treaty 4. This week, I wanted to bring to you a collection of videos that have to do with Indigenous entertainers who are the best of the best, people who are really at the top of their game and just absolutely killing it. We have a drag artist who performed on Canada's Drag Race and also is making really big waves on TikTok. I chose this story because their energy is just really awesome and electric, and then, you know, their passion for the craft is just really admirable, and they're just super fun. And then we have Destiny, who's a race car driver, who is the first Indigenous person to be in a NASCAR sanctioned race. Now, the fun thing about Destiny is she doesn't even do this to be the best of the best. She does this to spend time with her dad. And then we have my exclusive interview with the Snai-Nose Res Kids, who are in the studio right now working on a new album. They're about to go on a new tour, and they just signed with a new record label of Sony Music Canada. Fans across Canada are just anticipating and really, really excited to see what Snai-Nose Res Kids has in store, and I'm one of them. So from my team, from CBC Indigenous, I'm so happy to bring you the stories of Indigenous celebration of the best right here on CBC News Explore.
You hope to make your people proud, you know? You hope to make the people back home support you.
I'm so excited to start this journey with you all. I'm a drag artist, Indigenous, queer creative.
When I first saw it was on TV, RuPaul's Drag Race, the original series, which is based in the US. And I saw these people who celebrated themselves. I have loved it since I was a kid, yes. You could say I'm a fan. I've watched just about every season. When you're given that confirmation, it's a beautiful moment. It's like, all right, we made it. To be the first representation of a province in this country is a lot of pressure. If I can make First Nations people proud and tell our story authentically, that's all I ever really wanted to do. What people count out, especially if you're not from a huge city like Vancouver or Toronto, they just don't think there's a vibrant scene of queer artists or drag queens here. There's a ton of talent in this city, and to be able to be that first representation of it is such an honor.
The climax of a dream come true for designer Scott Wabineau. A showcase at New York Fashion Week.
I like to say it's kind of post-apocalyptic, but also mixed in with rave, but also has that Indigenous flair to it as well too. You know, I like to say, as Indigenous people, we're already living in post-apocalyptic times, you know, due to colonization and everything.
I'll put them on the rack for you.
Wabineau did everything from designing, sewing, to promoting their brand all on their own. Their work, a reflection of the strength from the hardships Indigenous people have faced.
I just really get so much inspiration at the resiliency and the strength a lot of our people carry, you know, rising up from the ashes of genocide and just paving paths.
As the first Mushkegwak Iu Inu to lead a runway at New York Fashion Week, Wabineau is also bringing a fresh voice.
I'm Two-Spirit, I'm Indigiqueer, you know? And I don't think we really ever see Two-Spirit Indigiqueer models being honored and, you know, being celebrated in spaces such as New York Fashion Week, you know? So it's really important for me to bring that.
Wabeno has come a long way.
Living in the res could be hard, you know, I've been there, you know, it feels very isolating and, you know, living so far away from big places like New York City or Toronto.
And that voyage is a reflection in their brand's logo.
Every time I think of home, I think of a teepee, you know, and for the longest time I was struggling to find home, you know. I felt like I wasn't at home within myself. And the logo kind of represents that, you know, you take home wherever you go.
Wabeno wants to use their voice to amplify other Two-Spirit folks in their work.
We need Indigenous voices, we need Indigenous presences, we need Indigenous creatives.
Among those that Wabeno brought to model is Michelle Chubb, from the Bunabunabee Cree Nation, north of Winnipeg. She is an Indigenous advocate and social media creator.
I'm a big supporter of Scott, and I'm a big supporter of lifting up Indigenous creators because we're in a world where our people are already being brought down, so we have to uplift each other and be there for each other because we are trailblazers.
The current Grand Chief of Iuishti, Mandigal Masti, is another trailblazer. As the first woman elected to the role, she was happy to take part as an honorary model.
To see a Cree youth breaking a boundary, coming to a space that has never had EO representation makes me really proud. Not only is he designing clothes, he's bringing an important subject forward, and that's really looking at Two-Spirit people with his new association, and the clothing is non-gender, non-binary. Anybody can wear it.
Wabeno hopes this show and their success will have an impact on Indigenous youth.
Thank you so much for coming. Indigenous representation to me is actually a form of harm reduction. You know, when Indigenous youth see themselves represented in different businesses such as fashion or film or business, politics, you know, it really does give them that fuel and that motivation, that inspiration, that drive, you know, to also pursue their own goals and their own dreams as well too.
Next, Wabeno will venture to Cannes, France to co-host for the Indigenous Fashion Arts Festival in May.
Sometimes our dreams and our goals just feel like dreams and goals, you know, but we could make them a reality. You come from such a strong bloodline of resiliency, you know, and love and community, and, you know, it's really important to tap into that.
Wabeno's own journey of decolonizing gender binaries through advocacy in fashion is only just beginning. Vanna Blacksmith, CBC News, New York.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Patrick Mitsuing is no stranger to the stage, but for this one, he is.
I'm still pinching myself, you know, that I'm here and I'm part of everything.
Mitsuing is Cree from Makwa Sagagan First Nation in Saskatchewan. He performs the traditional men's fancy dance and runs a dance company. This week, he's showing tens of thousands of football fans what he can do. This year, the Super Bowl invited performers like Mitsuing to showcase Indigenous culture in the lead-up to the game. At an event last week, for the first time, league officials read a land acknowledgement.
I feel like, you know, long overdue, but like so excited that they're doing it.
But some want much more change. While a couple of pro teams have discarded controversial nicknames, Kansas City still uses one, the Chiefs, and uses a fan chant, the Tomahawk Chop. Indigenous groups say it's cultural appropriation, and the team is the focus of repeated protests.
I just want to be seen as a human being and not as this thing you're mocking.
Groups like Not in Our Honor advocate against the use of Native American imagery in sport and hope positive steps like this aren't just a token.
What's going to happen after Super Bowl leaves? Are they still going to carry this on? I would hope so. And we would hope so going forward with other Super Bowls.
Mitsuing feels change is coming.
I know when I was growing up, it was hard for me to find someone I could look up to that looked like me. And, you know, now we're taking up all these spaces and being included. It's so amazing.
Amazing, he says, for this and the next generation to see. Stephanie Mercier, CBC News, Vancouver.
I am the first Saskatchewan woman and the first Aboriginal woman to ever race in a NASCAR sanctioned race. Yeah, and I'm super proud of that. My name's Destiny Clem. I am an IMCA modified dirt oval racetrack driver. I'm a Opaskwayak Cree, that's out of the Paw. This is my 12th year racing. I started when I was 13 at actually this track. My first experience racing was watching my dad race. He did it when I was a baby, and then he quit for a while, and then when we moved to Moose Jaw, he started doing it again, and we've been racing together really ever since.
We had a semi-truck and a hauler, and I take her down to the United States racing, and I put a briefcase on the seat, and me and her would sing all the way to Iowa, Nebraska, and back. So we got to be fairly good singers in our own mind, I guess.
My pre-race mindset is just kind of making sure that I have everything ready and just trying to like relax a little bit before I get into the car. So I like to get here early, that way I'm good to go and just hop in the car and don't really have to think about much. Well, I took it out for practice maybe a couple months ago here at this track. It was pretty fast out, so it was awesome. I'm really excited to race today. I'm really passionate about the sport because I get to spend a lot of time with my dad and my family. Just the fact that I get to do something that not a lot of women get to do. When I first started, there was barely any women at all racing, and then now that I've been racing for 12 years, I have been seeing lots more girls start to race, which is awesome. Just having kids come up to me, or even women, they come up to me and they're just saying that I'm their role model, and how that touches my heart and it's nice to be that character for them.
We're racing NASCAR, and they had a little girl come to the track. She was terminally ill, and she had a chance to pick her favorite racer. And there was a lot of guys who raced the Indy circuit and have raced professionally, and some extremely good racers. And that little girl chose Destiny to be with her for the day, and it was heartbreaking for me, but one of the best feelings I've ever had around the racetrack.
I just really love racing. It's just so much fun. Yeah, just the feel of it.
Indian relay is extreme. I've been run over, I've been kicked, I've been stepped on. It's organized chaos. My name is Cody Big Tobacco. I'm team owner of Big Tobacco Relay Racing out of Siksika Nation. Indian relay consists of 4 guys, 3 guys on the ground, 1 rider. It depends at the show where you're at. Either they have a mounted start or a standing start. You go 3 laps, 3 horses, 2 exchanges. The rider, the warrior, is coming in after the first lap and he gets off and he gets onto the next horse. It's a relay race, but instead of a baton, the rider's the baton. You got horses coming and going. You gotta have your head on a swivel when you're out there because anything can happen in this sport. Races usually last about a minute or so. You know, they're pretty fast. You go 3 laps, half mile, so it's pretty quick. It's called the original most extreme sport because it's run with thoroughbreds, and the thoroughbred is the most high-strung horse out there. Horses have always been a part of Blackfoot people and Blackfoot culture. Back in the day, that's how we traveled on horses, getting from camp to camp, and that's how we carried our teepees. So horses are everything, you know. They keep us out of trouble. They bring us places we never expect to go, and just to take that pride of who we are as Blackfoot people. And when you're out on the track, you become one with the horse.
There's numerous boys on the reserve that, you know, you get caught up in hanging around the town site and getting in trouble. And when I got into horses, it really gave me something to do, gave me a purpose. Started training horses and kept me busy. I got a lot of work from it.
Big Tobacco Relay consists of Big Tobaccos. There's Mark Big Tobacco, Ian Big Tobacco, the Warrior, Credence Big Tobacco, and myself, Cody Big Tobacco. We're a new team, we're experienced relayers, but we got work up from nothing. You know, we got built that name back up as who we are and what our horses can do. We put in a lot of training. We've been working hard at it, so we just gotta show up. My grandpa Francis used to race horses back before our time, and now it's just up to us to carry on the family tradition.
It's been very humbling, very, very humbling path that we've come on. Very grateful for how it's kept me out of trouble. And I'm very grateful for the things it's given me in life.
The main objective is just to be a role model for the younger kids, the younger generation, to display a horsemanship, who we are as Aboriginals, take pride where we come from, and to promote the sport of Indian relay race. We would like to be back at the Calgary Stampede in the near future.
This 13-year-old practices 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week.
I go back because I don't want to be like those people who just do nothing all day. And plus it's like fun.
Beth is Ganyagahaga from 6 Nations of the Grand River. She started training in Taekwondo at 7, then boxing at 8. She won her first tournament this summer in Toledo, Ohio, in the 80 kilogram plus bracket at the USA Boxing Women's Championship.
Boxing out the blue corner,
Beth lives in Sanborn, New York with her grandparents. Her papa doubles as her coach.
How do you think that it's built our relationship? Do you think it's built us stronger together?
Yeah, only as a coach.
Only as a
With his gold medal around his neck, Ikiluak Avalak is greeted first by his father, one of hundreds of people filling the Cambridge Bay Airport.
Oh, we're all so excited, just bubbling behind my head. I'm so glad that everybody's here to support the whole team.
Then a hero's parade around the western Nunavut community where about 2,000 people live. The celebrations continued into the evening, including videos featuring the athletes and a recap of that gold medal match. The 18-year-old says being Nunavut's first ever gold medalist still feels like a dream.
It's definitely a lifetime memory that I'll always hold.
And he credits this man, his coach, who says Avalak's win was the most emotional he's ever been.
It's not only for him, but it's for all Inuit, it's for all of Nunavut, because it shows that, you know, you can come from a small Indigenous community, Inuit community, and you can reach the top of the stage.
But there's another person special to Avalak who he says helped him win gold. His late brother Joanesi, who took his own life in 2015.
He was my big brother, yes. Just thinking that he was there. I didn't see him there, but I felt his presence there, and that gave me a big confidence booster in my gold medal match.
An emotional Avalak mentioned his brother in his victory speech right after his win. A heartfelt moment for their father.
And I'm so happy, I'm so proud of him. My family and my siblings, we all had, we all had tears about it, but those tears, for me, it's part of healing.
Wrestling itself was part of Avalak's healing.
The wrestling saved my life. It didn't just change me. I was just around a misguided crowd. Best I could say is it saved me from a life behind bars or even worse.
Now he's focused on his next goal.
The goal to the Olympics.
That's something people in Cambridge Bay say they can see in 2024. Ikiluag Avalak competing at the Summer Olympics in Paris. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. For Inuit fans, there is another way of watching Olympic hockey. In their language, Inuktitut. From a booth in Toronto sits this duo from Nunavut. David Ningyungen and Pujut Kusugak know hockey. They've gone from being players to coaches and now broadcasters for the 2022 Olympic Winter Games.
Our styles complement each other really well. David does such a good job with the play-by-play and has all the terms down pat, and the way he brings excitement into different plays and goals for me to just be able to jump in and add a little bit of detail. Trying to have a lot of fun with it wherever we can, throwing in some personal stories here and there.
Kusugak and Ningyungen live here in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut, where hockey is huge. The sport was introduced into Inuit communities only a few decades ago, so that meant coming up with Inuktitut terminology their ancestors never used.
For example, icing, sipkutiyok, that was one of the trickier ones, and so I had to ask the public to see what would be the best name for the word icing.
Hockey fans are watching.
Go Canada, go!
Including this family in Baker Lake, Nunavut.
It's been fabulous. Our culture, our language is important to us, and this is an extra step to recognize our language.
This advocate of the Inuktitut language and hockey fan from Rankin Inlet agrees.
What a gift. I think it's a great step towards the 94 calls to action from the TRC. I think 4 of those calls to action are related to our language. So I see it as a step toward reconciliation.
By the end of the Olympics, the pair will have announced over a dozen games. For Pujut Kusugak, it's all about the youth.
To really encourage other Inuktitut speakers to use our language.
As for David Ningyungen, he's doing it for the unilingual elders.
I did it for them just so they can feel they're part of the community during the events. Today, to be able to have a national or international audience is a great thing for our people.
Even though Canada's men's team has been eliminated from the 2022 Olympics, Ningyungen and Kusugak aren't done just yet. They'll be announcing the gold medal game Saturday night. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Yellowknife.
So all of these ingredients are biodegradable.
Anishinaabe entrepreneur Jen Harper started Cheekbone Beauty 7 years ago. It's one of the first Indigenous-owned makeup brands in Canada.
I never saw myself or felt represented in beauty spaces.
Her products are now sold in retail giant Sephora. Next month, she's expanding to other U.S. retailers. But in the early days, funding was a challenge.
There's so many ideas that possibly get overlooked because, you know, you just don't come from that generational wealth that some other people come from.
Harper attracted investors from Raven Capital. The Indigenous-led investment firm said it will write more checks this month, hoping to invest $75 million to help Indigenous entrepreneurs build businesses.
There's biases built into all of our systems about who's making the decisions.
Tiara Fraser is the first Indigenous woman to start an airline in Canada, launching Isqueo Air in 2018. Fraser says her business success has ripple effects.
Entrepreneurship is what has lifted me out of poverty. And then I, in turn, are uplifting my family and my community.
There are more than 60,000 Indigenous-owned businesses across the country. Indigenous peoples contributed almost $50 billion to Canada's economy in 2020, numbers that are expected to grow rapidly in the years to come.
There's this powerful explosion of Indigenous entrepreneurship.
Experts say efforts to support those entrepreneurs can help them reach the next level.
Economic inclusion is everything. This country was built on the structures of economic isolation of the Indigenous population.
Creating the conditions for Indigenous businesses to thrive is the single most natural, swift, and effective pathway to economic reconciliation in our country.
Small steps that offer a clear path forward. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Here are 5 ways you can appreciate Indigenous artists and businesses. 1. Do not purchase items that are Indigenous inspired. 2. Instead, support authentic Indigenous artists. This can be through apparel, beadwork, stickers, paintings, and so much more. That being said, 3 is stay away from items such as eagle feathers, Halloween costumes, and traditional attire such as regalia. Did you know that you do not have to make a purchase to support Indigenous artists and businesses? That brings us to 4, amplify our voices by liking, sharing, and following us and our content. And 5 is remember there are many nations and tribes across Turtle Island, so if you're unsure if you can make a purchase, just ask the artist. Remember, it's also important to do your own research and educate yourself. Cook Shecham, thank you for listening.
It has been a thrilling and rewarding few days for former CBC journalist Connie Walker. As we told you yesterday, Walker and her team at Gimlet Media in New York found out on Monday they'd won a Pulitzer Prize for Best Audio Journalism. On Tuesday, Walker learned they'd also won a Peabody Award. Both are for the podcast entitled Stolen, Surviving St. Michael's, which tells her father's story about surviving a residential school. Now, today, Connie Walker sat down with Matt Galloway of CBC Radio's The Current, and she says winning 2 prestigious awards in the span of 24 hours is surreal. Here's a bit more of that conversation.
When you think about why it was important for you to tell, this is a personal story, it's an important story, but it cuts close.
Yeah, I mean, I think that because it was so deeply personal, you know, a story where we set out with the question of like, can we find the priest who abused my dad in residential school? And then the personal questions that came with it, like, you know, can I better understand my father? Can I understand how what happened to him in that school affected the dad that he was to me? You know, so much of my own identity and my own trauma was intertwined in a lot of those questions. And so I felt like almost like a compulsion to want to answer those at the time. And I feel like, you know, that's a familiar feeling for me as a journalist. You know, you have a question, you're going to do whatever you can to try to get the answers. And looking back on it now that time has passed and the podcast has come out and, you know, the anxiety that you have around sharing such a personal story has gone away a little bit. You know, I kind of I'm just so grateful to have had that experience. Like it was such a gift in so many ways. And I'm really proud of what we did.
That was former CBC journalist Connie Walker on CBC Radio's The Current. She was reflecting on the podcast that has won both a Pulitzer Prize and a Peabody Award this week.
In Winnipeg.
We pulled through, and I love this team.
And Toronto.
Oh, I just wanted to be a part of this from the very beginning.
There's buzz around Little Bird,
L'chaim.
the new series about a woman raised Jewish searching for the family she was taken from.
Your children were apprehended.
When producers were looking for a champion, there was only one person.
They mentioned, wanting to do this show about an Indigenous woman adopted into a Jewish home, and I was like, yes, yes. I have never been given the opportunity to explore my own identity in that way as a Jewish Indigenous person.
That's what they take them.
Little Bird explores the 60s scoop when the Canadian government removed tens of thousands of children from Indigenous homes.
When we were shopping this originally, people who were reading it, even, smart, educated people, were shocked that they did not know anything about this.
I'm looking for family members.
The lead actor was ready to quit the profession when Jennifer Bademski reached out.
When she called me and told me I got the role, I was very emotional. I instantly started crying because it's not lost on me, the gravity of working with her.
Because I know you can't bear to live without me.
From acting on the res to producing shows such as Empire of Dirt, Bademski has fought to make space for Indigenous voices.
She's such a huge supporter. She blew the door open for Elmaya and I to be at the helm of this show.
For Bademski, Little Bird is an opportunity for healing and learning.
We have the power to amplify things that have been in the dark and have the power to change people's minds and points of view.
Medicine, she says, in the form of storytelling. Eli Glaster, CBC News, Toronto.
Only packed necessities.
In a forest outside Toronto, Cree warriors prepare to flee from government forces hunting children.
Soldiers on the perimeter.
It's fall, years before the pandemic, before discoveries at residential school sites reminded us of what was buried in Canada's past. We're on the set of the movie Night Raiders by Cree Métis director Danis Goulet. Set in the year 2043, the story takes place in a shattered nation.
Who lives here?
The city went dark after the war.
Where the state rips children from their families, forcing them into school.
No one can see your face.
Goulet says the sci-fi approach gives her more freedom.
It liberates you as a storyteller to come at things that you want to say. You can be as political as you want, and because you're in a totally fictional universe, you can say whatever you want to say.
And in this near future scenario, the Cree warriors, the Night Raiders, are fighting back. The film is part of something exciting happening with Indigenous movies.
Ain't nobody immune here but us.
Take the zombie thriller Blood Quantum. Or Slashback, an alien invasion movie shot recently in Nunavut.
We're on the precipice of a golden age of Indigenous cinema. These stories are really just starting to get, really massive platforms like our film is. And there's so many stories to be told.
Even on this wet, dreary day, you can see how the past and future collide as the teepee does double duty as a video village. Although the story is science fiction, the trauma it unearths is real, so they tread carefully.
It involves, approaching things with a lot of sensitivity. So we do smudging on set. We do many things to keep our actors safe because we know they're bringing their lived experience to the set.
Fast forward to a month ago, the soggy shoot days replaced with red carpet glamour as the Night Raiders arrive at this year's Toronto International Film Festival.
It feels amazing that we have the Night Raiders as our heroes.
I think there's a warrior in all of us. How are you feeling right now? You look a little...
So ecstatic, I'm so excited right now.
The morning after the premiere, the director is still buzzing.
It was amazing. It was the first time that I'd actually seen it big with an audience, so I was just hanging off of everything in the movie.
But Goulet says they almost didn't get the green light because some broadcasters said what happened wasn't relevant.
We got notes back saying that it was a propulsive story with great characters, but they felt that the residential school allegory didn't work because as a country we'd moved on from that.
But that changed over the summer.
The BC First Nation announces a horrific discovery: the remains of 215 children who attended a residential school.
We really haven't grappled with the full truth of what's happening, and I think this summer has been a testament to that with what we've been finding out in the news about the graves of children. So we've got a long way to go.
The heart of Night Raiders is about a mom fighting for her daughter. Both actors playing those pivotal roles have felt the ripple effects of residential schools. For Brooklyn Letexier Hart, it was her grandmother.
When I got to the age about 11, 12, she started talking more about the trauma she went through.
For Elmaya Tailfeathers, her grandfather.
I know that he ran away from school too many times to count, and that it was a really hard experience for him.
As Night Raiders finally opens in theaters, for them it isn't about the pain of the past, but the resilience to move forward.
And I know that it was our culture and our ancestors and the strength of who we are as a people that kept us alive and got us through those violent systems. And so, Night Raiders is an allegory. It's a physical representation of that strength.
Touch our hearts and give our allegiance.
A vision of the future with a message for the present. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
I'm Ace Abbey. I'm an OG Cree singer-songwriter from Sandy Lake First Nation. It's been an incredible year and a half of just nonstop going. I signed to Ishkade two years ago now, and since the record didn't come out till November 4th of last year, but it's been nonstop. It's been nonstop. So you'll have to ask me. I get asked this question, and then I'm always like, "Oh, ask me next month when I have time off." And then I'm like, "Ask me. Oh, actually, now that time's full. Ask me that next month." Just taking it day by day, honestly. I kind of moments like today where we actually took the afternoon to go by the ocean and kind of just reflect a bit, I think that's where I kind of find a little bit of, just a little bit of reflection there, just because it's easy for me to get tunnel vision and just be like, this is the next thing I got to do, and this is the next thing I got to do. But yeah, I'm really I have so much gratitude for getting all this recognition from my peers, and it does mean a lot. It's Ishkade Records. It's founded by Shoshana Kish and Amanda Rayom, two really kind of trailblazing Indigenous women who've been kind of in the music industry for decades, just breaking ground. And so yeah, I was the first signing to their label, and since then, I kind of put to bed the dream of making it as a musician. I thought, I'd be just happy just going to work and then playing here and there when I could. So kind of being able to do this now full time is a dream, and I kind of owe a lot to them for kind of helping me. I've worked up in the wilderness, and we all had these kind of near-death experiences, which kind of were kind of normalized just by being in the wilderness. Someone sawing their leg open and having to hike 9 kilometers out. Someone getting charged by bears and all these different things, and we always kind of joke about it. But I think I worked this job and I'd fallen through the ice, and I kind of had this experience where that one was not as easy for me to kind of laugh about, because I've had 2 family members who'd frozen to death, and that was going through my mind, and breaking through the ice and thinking of myself getting sucked under, and my family wouldn't be able to find me till spring. That happened to my uncle. And the whole time you're just like, oh, maybe he's still alive out there somewhere. And that whole thought really kind of, if I was going to put my family through that, kind of made me feel like, what am I doing here? And so, I made this promise to myself: if I got out of there, I'd do what I feel like I was meant to do. And so, I made it out of there, and I moved to the big city to go try and be a musician. The culture and the family, I think they kind of went hand in hand with this project. I I grew up off reserve. I was only in Sandy Lake till I was 4. So, I grew up on all these kind of small northern kind of more like white towns, and so yeah, it took me a while to kind of reconnect with my roots because it wasn't like something to be proud of where I was growing up, and that's why it was so interesting moving to the city and kind of being wow, it's so different here to be Indigenous in the big cities. Like there's these little pockets where the culture is more celebrated versus not celebrated, and quite the opposite. So yeah, I think making this album, which started during the pandemic, my grandfather, I remember having these conversations with him and being worried that he would get COVID, and him kind of losing his memories, and in that moment the whole there's this urgency for me to record these stories and get to know more about who I am, because as a person, like an Indigenous person, like many people, Indigenous people, like reconnecting, a lot of the time all we have is our family to kind of share these stories, and my grandfather at the time was like my last kind of direct connection to all our family history and how we got from A to B. So it was a journey for us both, for sure. Like honestly, it was like I knew he had been to residential school, and I had never really asked about his experiences there because of where we come from, and because we're both from the north, and there's this whole idea of what it means to be a man, and so you don't talk about your feelings and stuff. And so we kind of had this breakthrough during the pandemic where it was just us talking and just being completely open. And I think the biggest thing to come out of it was my grandfather, before he passed away, had decided that he was ready to kind of move on and forgive and move on with his life, which I don't think happens for many residential school survivors. But I think because he shared his story, and because suddenly all the people around him were like, oh, your grandson's here and just telling his story, and then we listened to the record and we read this about your story, and so he was more able to speak about it more openly, and I think he just got this, I'm not sure if validation is the right word, but he definitely got closure.
Hey, what's good, y'all? We're the Snotty Nose Reds kids, currently based out of Vancouver, but we come from Kitimat Village, Haisla Nation.
So, you guys have some new stuff happening. So if you just want to tell me what's going on.
We're currently locked in the studio, gearing up for a tour, working on some top secret projects. But the main thing we're working on right now is Red Future. And it's an album that is kind of based loosely around Indigenous futurism. And the concept behind it is for us to survive, we must find our old ways and go back to that, because we're living in a world that just consumes, and we need to kind of get out of that.
I'ma go dummy, we about to vacate out of the country. I can get used to the laundry. Never should have gave you Nietzsche's money.
I can't help but notice that there's no Regina or Saskatchewan dates in general. Just putting that out there if you guys want to think about it.
So we're hitting up smaller markets that we've never done before, and then when Red Future drops, you guys will get your shows. We're gonna hit up everything.
That's good to know. I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah, we didn't forget about nobody. We're just that's how it goes.
Okay, so back to the questions. Getting to where you guys are now, I guess the path really hasn't been easy to my understanding in terms of dealing with racism. You guys have mentioned in the past the pandemic was really hard on you and other hurdles that you've had to get over. So during this time, was it difficult at all to stay true to yourselves as Indigenous artists?
I wouldn't say so. I'd say it made it more crucial. It made it more crucial for us to be true to ourselves. Really dig down and figure out what's going on. And we've been through it all, you know, like we've seen the world like 2 times over. Like I always say, we've been to hell and back, you know, and it creates strength in us.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes us realize how much we need each other, you know, like, and without all those trials and tribulations that we've gone through, we might not be at where we're at right now. So we're thankful, and we take everything with a grain of salt, and we're just blessed to live the lives that we're able to live and have lived.
Yeah. And we knew, like, as long as we stay true to ourselves and we just keep putting in the work, like, it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
And we've been, feels like, grinding nonstop, trying to work on this album all year, you know, and long days, long nights, late nights, early mornings, you know, like, just keep going and going and going, you know what I mean? And we're very excited for next year, because all the work that we're putting in now is prepping us for what's to come next year.
What does it feel like to be so celebrated as Indigenous artists?
It's been quite the journey to get here. We were saying earlier, like, we weren't fully appreciated, let alone respected in the beginning. Like, everything's earned for us, like nothing is given. And especially when it comes to respect, you know what I mean? And yeah, just like we said, all we've done was just been us and like tell our story. You know, we're just 2 young kids from small town northern BC. You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, when people say they're from a small town, they think like small cities, but no, we're from a small town, like from the sticks. And to be able to have the opportunities that we've had from the result of our work ethic and belief in one another, like, I wouldn't say so far as like it's a surprise to us, but it's definitely something that we don't take for granted, you know, because like we worked our ass off to get here.
We did it without a deal, but we're here now, baby. I'm native, dude. Like, I have to work 3 times harder to get just as far as you got in a year. And, you know, and it kind of like we're kind of blessed in that sense too, because it you know, a lot of people that rise quick fall fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, it gave us time to develop character and for us to be able to understand the industry. We never got into no quick deals. We took our time with finding our management. And yeah, the slow grind has been kind of like a blessing for us.
Yeah.
But
that led us to building a foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you think it's important to make Indigenous influenced hip hop?
That's just who we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like our whole career has just been a journey of finding ourselves. You know what I mean? It's been finding ourselves. The music within itself is healing to us. It helped us get over like a lot of traumas that we've had growing up, especially when it comes to like losing close family members. Like, it's been therapeutic for us, you know, and we knew, like, for every record that we made, I'm like, okay, like, if this makes us like genuinely happy or like excited, we knew, like, with like the grace of the creator, like, just it would impact some kid that's going through the same thing that we went through and that we're talking about, and it's going to help them heal and be proud of themselves, and not just proud of themselves, but like to love themselves, you know what I mean? Because a lot of us weren't taught that growing up because of colonialism, you know what I mean? So it's been a journey, man. That's all I can really sum it up as.
Yeah, and like, you know, like you were saying, like for us, we always had a positive outlook on life, and it has a lot to do with our upbringing and the community that raised us, our parents. We grew up really close with one another, so we had someone to lean on at all times through the hard times of doing this whole thing. But what we did we wanted to make an impact and make an impact on whoever's listening to our music, because like when we finally came into the hip hop scene, that's when we found out that there was other Native rappers out there. But we wanted to make music that no one's heard before and no one's tuned into before, because it's never been done before. And like what we do is like we just stay true to ourselves first and foremost, But if we ever have to talk about anything negative or anything serious or anything dark, we always finish with a positive, because that's just how we were raised. You know, we're always taught to like look at the bright side of things.
We heard a quote early on in our career. We went to like our first Juno Fest back in like 2019, and it was Maestro Fresh West who said, "Don't make records, make history."
War Club is a battle cry for social and political change. With that, I'd like to introduce DJ Shub and Snotty Nose Redkid.
My father was raised in the era when they tried to save the man and kill the Indian. No residential credential, my pride on a million. I need me some cedar, some sweetgrass, some sage and tobacco. I need me some medicine. My spiritual guides never lie. All my loved ones in the sky.
What we want to do is make an impact for generations to come. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of what award we win in the future, like the biggest award for us will be the next generation or two down the line to say, you know, I was raised on Snotty Nose Redkids.
I love hip hop. I love seeing our people making such big waves, not only in Canada, but, you know, going to the US and internationally. And like, as a First Nations person, it's like really fun to hear like things that I can relate to in terms of like culture and humor and like the issues that we have to go through as Indigenous people. So I know you guys are super busy. I know you guys have an upcoming tour and you're in the studio right now. So I just want to thank you so much for taking this opportunity to talk to me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.